Good morning, everybody. This is Chris Bruce in Spokane, Washington. You're on Dave Johnson's Call of the Leader. Since he's driving, he asked me to take over and host this a little bit today. Today, we're going to meet Chip and Marcy Littlejohn and go through and learn some of the history that got them to where they are today, and really how we've progressed through all of these different changes to create Avini and just see. Maybe there's some nuggets in there that can help us to build our own businesses, have some really great experiences, and just have them share some stories so you guys can get to know them. So Chip and Marcy, welcome to the Zoom, and we're glad we have you here today. So just to start a little bit, you guys want to tell just a little bit about who you are? Each of you kind of give a little introduction, and then we'll start asking some questions and go into some stories.
Okay. I have a little thought to get us started, Chris. And when I was listening to Dave speak recently, and he was talking about, picking Valerie out of the crowd at the dance, and that he chose her because she was always cheerful. And boy, has that proved to be true in every circumstance. You can count on Valerie to be cheerful. And so I thought about that a little bit, and just kind of, I like to springboard off of some of Dave's thoughts sometimes. And when you are selecting a mate, one of the things that happens with young people is they wonder if any one can add up to the possibilities of all the others. And the link I'd like to make is to businesses like this. Can any one network marketing healthy products business add up to the possibility of all the others? And what does it take to do that? So you go from, and this is my big thought for the day. If I was going to have a theme for our presentation today, it would be, how is it that you're start out with one of millions as far as humans goes, or opportunities go, or paths for your life goes, or what you could do in a certain circumstance go, one of millions. And what you're wanting to do is select the one that is one in a million. What a transition that is. And I often think the second half of that thought about making a choice and a commitment is you go from the possibilities, all the possibilities of all the other ones not adding up to one, the possibilities of one, to if you never commit, you never find out, what a family would be or what a lifelong commitment would be. And I think that that's one of the things that I find to be really interesting about what we have here with Avini. It truly is, to me, one of a million that becomes one in a million. And so what are the things that make that happen? And so I just kind of made a list, and when I think about Marcy and he was, for him with Valerie, the thing that he brought out was cheerfulness. It seemed like no matter what, she always saw the bright side of it, and she was cheerful. Well, if I was going to point out something about Marcy, it would be that no matter what, she will never short you on effort. And then I got to thinking about other people in the group, and there's people in the group, and Rich Cotter's always my favorite example, that will never short you on organization. Certainly, Neil Roth is one of those. One in a million guy. You think about Rick Deitch; he'll never short you on, biochemical genius, right?
Right.
And then pretty much everybody who comes here will never short you on human intelligence, the ability to interact with other people, because that's kind of the magic that allows someone to be successful in a deal like this. And so those were just some of the things that I thought might maybe set a good tone for today. And so after 42 years, I can tell you that it's pretty interesting, and what an interesting life it's been. And I would say that and this might be a little bit weird, but a revelation about the way it is with Marcy and I and Rick in our feelings. I mean, we're as proud of and supportive and protective of Rick Deitch as though he were one of our kids. So that's how this really all, that's kind of I'm looking for some bottom line things to introduce this. And so over to Marcy.
Golly. You overheard me. He said, do you know what you're going to say? And I say, no, that just confuses me. Because if I know what I'm going to say, no matter what I'm going to say, he's going to say something that doesn't really go with what I'm going to say. So, but here we are. We're a matched pair. We quite often discover things about each other when we're in the middle of something like this. But we've been together 42 years. We found Rick in late August of 2004. He has become someone in our lives that has participated. There's a lot of things people you invite into your lives, and we're great at adopting people. That's, if you're looking for what we're really good at, it's adopting people. So I love that in this company and companies like ours, we can adopt people. And so for me, we adopted Rick then. we found Rick through someone that I was a referral to the then leader of a company. And when he called me up, he started talking about a business opportunity, and I didn't listen. I wasn't interested in a business opportunity, but he said something after talking for quite some time. He said something about a product, a brand new product. It was just coming out. He didn't even have any in his hand. A few people had tried it. They had some testimonies. The product that he was talking about is Cell Defender. And so he said, this is an incredible product. And what we're seeing so far is the results are incredible. We have miracles on our hands. I heard that. And I was sitting next to one of my best friends who had just come out of a breast surgery, the scoop surgery, where they had taken a certain amount of tissue out to see if they could save her from a bad disease. And she's sitting there next to me listening, and we both looked at each other. I said, sign me up. He didn't hear me. He went on for another half hour and said, sign me up. I said, sign me up. He said, now? I said, yes. And he said, well, you just going to join? I had been very successful in a couple of companies. We had been successful in a couple of companies. I was master distributor of a couple of companies, blew the doors off a couple of companies. He thought I was going to make some demands. My demand was, can you write any faster? I said, as soon as I get signed up, she needs to sign up. And that's how that went. And then, like everything in our lives, things happen just with so much reason. It's just seems so logical to me that, of course, the next thing is, how do we meet Rick? Rick was doing a trade show in Denver, Colorado. And off we went to Denver, Colorado to meet Rick Deitch. And we went to the trade show. Chip met Rick. He comes back. He's lost. Nobody's going to be surprised by this. Chip went to see what all was going on at the trade show, and I saw him about 4 hours later. He found Rick, and the two of them started the conversation that is Avini Health today. And we're so excited, because we knew with Rick and this one product that I say changes the face of medicine, literally. It's the most important product discovered in the last 500 years in the, whether it's nutritional or pharmaceutical. It's the biggest discovery. So that's step one. Meanwhile, when he finally came back, then I got to meet Rick.
Well, actually, he was helping someone at a booth at that health fair, and he was also a speaker. And just moments after I met him, he went off to do his presentation. So of course I went and listened, is kind of how that happened. But I already had the big idea in my head, because as Marcy and Brenda were sitting next to each other and enrolling, she had faxed in the information from about this new product and handed it over her shoulder to me, because that's my role, is to look at stuff and say, okay, is this legit? Is this good? Is this interesting? Is this going to change the world? And my very first impression in the first minute was, oh my goodness, this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
Because, and really what I saw boiled down to the simplest terms is, everything else I had looked for was building blocks of good health. I'd studied nutrition. I was always looking for, the best performance I could get out of myself and others. I know, Chris, for you, that came from, martial arts and from maybe needing ways to strengthen your bones in your life. I always love hearing your stories about, and how you've overcome and become who you are. And in my case, I was, because I went into special forces, that really triggered me. And I thought, okay, I got to be better than the best guy on the other side, was what I thought. I mean, that's the exact thought that was in my head. So I started looking for ways to, just get a little bit more out of humans. And so all those other things nutritionally were this building block, that building block. You might be low on this, you might benefit, if you did this. And all of a sudden here we had a way, if you maybe weren't totally satisfied with what you were able to accomplish with all those ideas, all of a sudden here we were able to remove the stumbling blocks that allowed everything else to work properly. And when I was reading, I just thought, okay, every single thing is going to start going right at once. You're going to start, passing over all these impediments that used to hold you back, that you couldn't see. There was no way to get rid of them, no way to avoid them in the world. They were going to accumulate and harm you more and more throughout your whole life. And now all of a sudden, here was the guy and the idea to just move it all out of the way and let people, reach the unlimited version of themselves. I always like that term. So that was what I was doing behind them as they were, entering the first, relationship with Rick. And then we heard he was going to be over there in Colorado. Whenever we heard him speak, and any of you that have heard him speak, he has that dual personality. He's the guy in the lab, and he's the guy that loves to be with the people. And so back to you.
We didn't do right. The first question was, say a little bit about yourselves. That's Chip. This is Marcy, and we're from Scottsbluff, Nebraska, which is 30 miles from the Wyoming border. People say, why Nebraska? And we say, well, there's a little strip of land where everybody who in the 1800s was traveling west, whether it was the Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, all of the trails came together between the river and the Pointy Rock. The Pointy Rock is called Chimney Rock, and that's where I was raised. It was literally in that strip of land between Chimney Rock and the river. And people say, why Nebraska? And I say, that's where the wagon wheel broke. And that's about the truth of it. My grandfather came at a time when he was able to just go up on the top of a peak, somewhat like Chimney Rock, just not very far from there. And he looked out and he said, everything from right there to right there is mine. And then he set out to make that true. So as you're thinking about your territories, and as you're thinking about history, you may want your history to read, I looked out and said, this is mine. How big do you want it? It's up to you. Now, how about question number 2?
Well, so she just brought that up. Every time a new network marketing company comes, the entire world is available again. All the real estate is available again. When cell phones came on, when cable TV came on, you know, when each of those things, when the idea of insurance came on, each of those things, the entire world, all is to be conquered again. You know, the Oklahoma land rush, you know, my mom still got a little bit of a check from the royalties on a piece of ground caught in the Oklahoma land rush. And the term Sooner, I don't know if you ever know Oklahoma Sooners. What is a Sooner? Let's, you know, you can't go sooner than that starts. That was what it was, that you were limited. You can't jump the gun. Well, here we are in the, you know, we're in the starting blocks. We've got a year under our belt, and, you know, we're out and the entire world is available to Avini, which is a very special moment with an idea this big.
Remember when I said, you said 15 questions and I said, let's try 5. This
Yeah.
might be why.
Yeah, that's why. Well, one of the things that you said early on is that you're really good at adopting people.
Yes.
And I've been in a few different companies and a few different industries. And one of the things that they don't have is kind of a family feeling. It's a very competitive, I've got to get mine before they get theirs, or there won't be enough kind of feeling. And especially the management style of most companies is to foster that competition, to say, Steve, you better watch out because Mary's coming. She's gonna pass you, and then, you know, all of these kinds of things. And they create that animosity between people. And the thing that I love about how you guys are leading and teaching, and how Avini is developing, is it is that family oriented kind of thing, where it's not you have to beat this other person. It's let's pull together and go. So where did that switch come for you? Was that just always your thought in business, or was that something that developed because you've been in a few things over the years? So
Okay.
Well, it comes from my family history. My mother was the ultimate adopter. She brought other kids to our family from the time before we were born. So I come from a family of 3 and 30, because there was never a kid that went without with my mom around. So we just always had extras, whether we had extra or not, we always had extras. So inclusive. I think that's what makes what we do unusual. I love relationship marketing. I like that's what we always needed to do, was put this product in the forefront. And we always did that. And people who I've worked with in the past, university of that company, university of that other company that I've been in, what I discovered is, if I couldn't build it my way because their way was a set way, right? I usually kept looking, and I was not looking for other opportunities. It wasn't like that. I felt passionate about everything I've ever done. I've been self-employed since I was 11 years old, and had a paper route. If you're looking for great networkers, find the kids that had paper routes back when it was hard to run a paper route, right? When it was safe to be a carrier, you know, and take your papers around. But what I love is this unity comes because you make a decision. You make a decision to be inclusive, not exclusive. Not just the top rung of the ladder gets recognition. That's not how it works. What happens is you use people up in a situation, or you lift people up. And so my term is, let's lift everybody up. The rising tide raises all ships. If we keep it family, even family has rules. The rules are you don't hurt each other. You don't talk negative about anybody in the company. You don't talk down to people. You talk with people. It's a choice, and I love our choice. For all the years that we've been pursuing this product and working with this product, the results from the product have been incredible. And the only negatives were the outsiders who didn't see what family meant. So we're not going to let that happen here, because we're letting people know from the get-go they're part of a family. It's going to be a huge family, and there'll be things that go absolutely perfectly. And there'll be things where people are challenged by finding their place in the family, but there'll always be a place.
Okay, so maybe the same
Go ahead.
question. I might say how that happened for us. My dad was in a P-51 squadron in Lincoln, Nebraska, and he was the top non-commissioned officer, and the top colonel was Colonel Gold from the huge department store family in Lincoln. And they would travel the world, and the two guys would run the honeys when they were traveling the world that blew up both families. And so that was the end of that deal. And so what my point was, then along comes a stepdad who was a tail gunner in the Korean War and went and did things, that supposedly weren't done. And he comes back to Nebraska as an engineer on the railroad, meets my mom, who's a clerk for the district engineer, and he steps up. So I had a stepdad who stepped up, and he was the example. He treated my sister and I ultimately, the ultimate guy. And so that was maybe the first good example, like, what Marcy was saying. But when it came to networking, I have to say, pretty much universally in our network marketing experience and careers, we have been grateful for two couples that we always looked up to set the tone. And the nearer of those to us would have been Dennis and Ruth Williams. The next one that I was so grateful for were Dave and Valerie. And they set a tone that just felt great. And I'm so pleased. And you think about all the years that this didn't happen, that Rick's product didn't suddenly spawn its own thing, that it kept searching for some sort of an organization that it felt right in. And what we kept finding was a bad stepdad, or a bad dad. I mean, really, the world's full of them. They're easy to find, but the good ones aren't so easy to find. And so here you have this brilliant guy, Neil Roth, and he's probably just like we are. And we've talked about this for years, since we met him, talked with Rick for many years before that wouldn't it be nice if we could actually just be on our own and not have some bureaucracy hanging over our heads that doesn't understand who we are and what we do and where we want to go with this, to not just have a bottle of this for that problem, a bottle of that for the other problem, and build an organization, but to truly set out to change the way that humans deal with their health care worldwide, to be able to just, literally step in so that you can walk perpendicular to the path that everybody else is walking, walk on the pretty path instead of the one in and out of the doctor's office. It's always a pretty path goes around the hospital. We want to walk on that path, not the one in and out. And so that was really the big thing. And I think Neil has some special IQ. We're all seeing it happen because of what he's able to do for us. He's literally replaced all those giant bureaucracies that we were in, but he saw a moment. And I would say, as far as setting the tone goes, he had gotten to know Dave and Valerie. He had gotten to know us. He knew Rick already. He knew how to run a big business. But you had to have all the pieces together at one time. And uniquely in my life, this company, this moment, we have all the right people in all the right places doing all the right things, and none of the bad ones. It's really, there's no holes in the boat. And it's a beautiful moment. It really is a beautiful moment. And I love the people setting the tone in each and every way.
Right. Quick, Chris, you got another shot.
Sure. All right. Okay. So you've talked a little bit about it, but you've gone through a lot of different places to get to here. You guys were part of the conversation in bringing Rick to the point where he would actually do this, because I've seen before where it's the inventor CEO, and very rarely do you have someone who has both of those abilities. You can have the guy that's in the lab, you can have the guy that talks to people, but very rarely is that one guy. And so we really do have a kind of a layer of geniuses where Neil could do almost all of this by himself, and Rick could do almost all of this by himself, and you guys could do almost all of this by yourselves. But for those that haven't heard kind of some of those conversations, what did you guys do, or how did the conversation go when you're trying to get Rick to agree to do this, because he's already a busy guy, he didn't need this.
Right. And this started 15 years ago. 15 years ago, we saw cracks in the foundation of the house that we were working in, right? When the foundation leaks, the stability isn't there. And but everything about the products were perfect. Everything about the way, everything about Rick's vision for the products were perfect. Our vision for the products was perfect. And it's like that. We discovered that the cracks were more than skin deep. And so we started, you can live in fear because you fear change, or you can look for change, because if you're really sure of any one piece of the puzzle, you look around and say, how can we make the puzzle come together? We couldn't have chosen better. Neil was involved with Rick before we were. He was actually part of a company before the company we joined. And that company blew itself up. We watched companies literally devour their young, instead of adopting people and bringing them in and saying, great job, you're doing it it's your way, but you're doing it your way, it's your business. We want people to feel they can build their business. We want people to understand that's what this is your opportunity, your business. You're going to do it at your speed. We're just going to be sure you have a road to travel on. Well, with Rick, when we started talking to Rick about when the flaws became apparent to even people outside of the niche group, we don't have a niche group here, and we're not going to have that. We're going to have an inclusive group. But as we watch things, people were picking apart, and taking people, doing things that we ethically don't want to see happen. And we said, you know what it is? It's the foundation. We need you to be in charge of your own, of the opportunity. Now, Rick had a really amazing thing. Most scientists can't put two shoes on. Rick can wear any pair of shoes, and he functions at a level that most people never see. You have a conversation with Rick, he remembers that conversation for time and eternity. And we kept having the same conversation. We kept having the conversation that he needed to be in charge, that he needed to be part of the ownership, that he needed to be able to decide what was best for the product, what was best for the future of that product. And we kept trying to make that happen as disintegration happened. When Chip said this product had not exploded, that's not true. We had a huge explosion. We had a company that didn't appreciate its distributor base. that was jealous of the checks that we earned in the company, that literally was jealous of Rick's relationship with the people. The thing that we valued the most was Rick's ability to relate to everyone and everything in the company. His ability to work with everyone was incredible and was inclusive. So my word is inclusive. We want the company to be inclusive. We want everyone to see what we saw, in that we're in great hands. We're absolutely in the ultimate situation. There isn't something that could be better. It already is better.
So for my answer, I'm going to attempt to transfer a moment to you guys. And so hopefully this will be of great value. And of course, this is a moment. And this is what I want to transfer. And the way I see it, fuel that's not at the proper mixture, I think it's like 14-to-1 fueled air is the mixture that actually makes internal combustion run. But in networking, it's a little bit different deal. We're a little bit like characters in a Shakespearean play, where every single person in the play has some sort of a tragic flaw that makes it so interesting. And my theory is that that's what gets most of us into network marketing. There's something about us that we don't want to do other things. There's something we can't put up with organizations above us, or we don't like to be in a mass of people. We want to be more loosely knit. We don't like a whole bunch of rules to follow. We'd kind of like to have more freedom than that. It probably freedom, the insatiable desire for freedom is part of it. And what happened here, and also the other thing that network marketers typically have is something that made you look. If you're walking through a car show and there's all of a sudden there's an old truck with buffalo horns on it, and it has a buffalo tail and well, it has other parts of a buffalo attached as well. The kids and the old guys are all going to stop and look at it, and it okay, made you look. That was my goal. I'm not going to win the car show, but I get to have the conversations with the people. And I know you guys are like that too. You have that little made you look factor, made you stop and have a conversation. Oh, this person's interesting. I'd like to talk to this person. I want to know, I want to be more alive like they are. So the other flip side of the tragic flaws is that most of the people, I think all the people that come here, and I hope I'm talking to each one of you in particular, also have some incredible gifts that make you just perfect. And maybe the timing is just perfect for you to be here. And I think what Neil saw, that finally he saw the right mixture of people with incredible gifts to complete the picture, that he could make that move and that it would fly. And he just knew it would. And I think there were others amongst us who knew it would too. And the moment finally came, the mixture finally came. And so that it took off. And the way I would like to tie that to a moment is probably one of the main reasons that I got into special forces. I didn't want to be part of some huge thing. I was forward air control for the 82nd Airborne. And those guys spent a lot of time, sitting on a ramp, wearing their suits, waiting for a plane to take off. And somebody was giving them orders to do all kinds of ridiculous stuff. I didn't want that feeling. I wanted a lot more freedom than that. So I got an instant in my life that I had a chance to do special forces and have my own team. And I thought, okay, that's got to do that. That's freedom to me. And at one point, and this is what I want to transfer to you. And this was after Vietnam was over, and they'd come to me and said, we don't need guys like you anymore. And I hadn't ever had to go. I prepared to go. I didn't have to go, but I had one of the best teams, that was still over here. And the Pentagon came and said, we want to demonstrate that airborne assault, that biggest in history, and we want to do it at night. And we want, came to me and my team, we said, we want you guys to be the lead for it. And the guy looked at me, this guy from the Pentagon, and he looked at me and he said, this is different. We all know that most of us are leaving now, or at least a bunch of you are. And I want to show the people that are coming from Washington what we're capable of. And this is my message to you guys. I don't want you to do what we all know you can do. This is Neil's message to Rick and to Doug and to every one of you guys. I don't want you to do what we all know you can do. I want you to do what only you know you can do. And that's the moment I want to transfer to you guys today.
Wow. I really, really like that last one. Two of my heroes, Bruce Lee and Ed Parker, both came from very traditional martial arts backgrounds, and both of them kind of broke the mold, and independently they came up with essentially a philosophy to go into new situations, new things, and just take in the knowledge, take in the information, and then adapt it to yourself and discard what's unnecessary, because both of them came from that very rigid thing. And a lot of us are coming from very rigid corporate structures or very rigid educational structures where we're all supposed to be in cubicles and everybody has the same clothes on and the same haircut and, check our clock and just do everything exactly the same. And this is more of the art side of it, where you're reinventing everything every day. And there's going to be people that are right now, they're brand new and they haven't even had their very first sign up or first customer. And a year from now or 5 years from now, they're going to be this artist that we're all just watching and just going, how did they do that? Because they've just expressed this thing. Looking back at Dave Johnson years ago, because he has some pictures of himself when he was first trying to do it, and that Dave Johnson is not this Dave Johnson, completely different person. And he's become an artist in showing that you do have to learn everything, but you don't have to share everything that you know, and making it look easy. I mean, he was the multi-millionaire who was wearing Dockers and flowered shirts from Costco, and he'd show up and people are like, when's the speaker going to get here? Oh, I've been here the whole time. And then he'd just get up and he'd just amaze people with all these things. And you guys are the same kind of way. I mean, you don't look like superheroes, but you kind of are, because you have these skills. I mean, it's just all ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Yep.
So
and encouraged.
Yeah. So if there's anything else,
encouraged and welcome to do so.
Yeah,
that's good.
So is there any last message you want to send out to people?
Yeah, the thing that I think all of us have learned, we were, everyone was willing to step up. Everyone was everybody wanted to step up. We knew all the things we didn't want this company to be. Isn't that like a lesson bigger than any other lesson? If you're looking to say, I want another future, another chapter at 70 years old, you're going to start something new, yes. And is there a hesitancy? No, because we knew all the things we didn't want. And we knew we were people who knew all the things they didn't want from another company. Neil didn't want to be the bad guy in the scenario when this is talked about, and it will be talked about. This will be what changes network marketing history.
Yes.
What we didn't want was to use people up. What we didn't want was a company that didn't appreciate what they had. What we didn't want was a company that didn't know what the product could do. Do you know that in the old company, I would come and say something about a testimony, tell something about a testimony, and they would look at each other like, now what product did you use? Where was the, if you don't know what's in the box, don't sell it. Look for somebody who will know what's in the box. We know what's in the box. We know what's in the bottle. We know what changes lives. We've watched it happen. We've been part of what's happened. We know all the things we didn't want. And I want you to know we have everything we ever wanted in this company. We have friends that we've worked with for decades. We have friends that we dreamed of having in a company with us. We have leadership that is unparalleled because they have been to the university of somewhere else. And they found the answers here. We made the answers here. We knew from the first moment all the things we didn't want. How incredible is it that all the things we didn't want will protect you, your future, and your legacy business? Because this will be truly a network marketing legacy.
If you want to call it good, it's good. I got one more story if you want one more story.
Sure. Let's close it with one more.
All right. So if you weren't here, you wouldn't have heard this probably along the way. We actually met Neil years ago in Las Vegas. And this will give you a little bit of an idea, maybe why Rick and Neil have been together and respect each other. They owned a business together. I think Rick was a lot of the financing for it, and Neil was the muscle and the brains. And they were making electric vehicles in Las Vegas. And we were on a deal with, like a rewards trip in Las Vegas with Rick. And he said, let's run over and see my other business, my e-vehicle business. And they were making some of the very first battery-powered vehicles. And they were like for mall cops or park rangers or stuff like that. And they were making them left and right. It was beautiful and it was huge. And Neil ran over and talked to us for like a part of a split second. I remember that split second. I didn't, catch him at the time. I could just see that he was the guy pouring himself into that electrical vehicle business. And we actually got to take a little buzz on one there in the street, and they were making them right there, and they were going out as fast as they could make them. But apparently the money wasn't working quite as good as they hoped it would. And they had reached out to the government and they were applying for a $2 million grant. Well, think how quickly they'd probably bite on that, if, this was just a thing whose time hadn't quite come yet. Think about that, right? It was a thing whose time, and their response back was really interesting. They said, we don't really have a $2 million grant. If you need 20 million, we'd entertain a proposal about that. I thought, well, that's pretty revealing. But anyway, that they eventually unhooked from that and have recongealed here. And it's a better deal for them and for us, I assure you. So there's a little bit you maybe wouldn't have heard if you weren't here this morning.
So many wonderful things haven't been written, but that's why we keep adopting new people into the family. Their story is going to make our story just so much stronger, so much better. Every new person has the opportunity to explode this opportunity, and every single one matters. We're literally at the stage where it's going to happen with or without some people. They'll make the decision not to come. And then for years to come, they'll say, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. And if you're listening to this, you're not one of those. So we're excited. We're excited because every time that opportunity door opens and somebody walks through, they're bringing something special. And we just like to identify what's unique and special about them and invite them to share that with everyone they meet.
All right. Thank you, Chip and Marcy Littlejohn, for being on here. Thanks everybody who joined us and watched and listened. I hope this helped you have some insight into where Avini came from and where Avini is going. And we invite you to just come and get adopted. I don't know, you got room at the table for 6,000-7,000 more? Sure.
60.
All right. So
60,
thanks everybody.
more.
60,000 more. I was shooting low. All right. Thanks everybody.